Audiobooks by H.G. Shuler. Earth Chronicles, Book 1 continues. The Fifth Pinnacle. Chapter 2. Carter Timothy Lancaster had a history of turning in the wrong direction. It was a history he wasn't proud of, one he had worked on in recent years to correct. He was hoping in this instance, with his grandfather, that he would perceive the right road before it was too late to take it. 6 years ago, he had become severely disturbed by his own self-complacency. It had cost him his new wife and nearly cost him his job. He had always thought that a lack of motivation was harmless enough until it became the source of some extremely harmful complications. After losing his wife and going through what he viewed as ill luck in a rebound relationship, he tried one night to logically trace the causes of his troubles back to his father's death. Carter was only 7 when a drunk driver veered into a crowd of people exiting a movie theater. 11 were injured, and 1 was killed. That one was his father. The terrifying screams at times still ring in his head like the constant, piercing fizz of static. Even after all these years, he still relives the scene at least once a week in his mind. His father had saved his life, shoving him clear of the car a split second before he himself was hit by it, breaking his back, severing and crushing his spinal cord. Everyone felt a deep sorrow for Carter, which had led to years of him being spoiled. His whole life became an experiment in sentimentality. He grew up never having to lift a finger for himself. The cause of all his troubles, he realized that night, could not be placed on his father. It wasn't a sudden epiphany that would immediately change his life for the good. Rather, it was more the discovery that he needed to take ownership of his life, to sign the paperwork with his own hands. For a while he had overswung, taking too critical of an approach, becoming his own antagonist. When the smoke finally cleared, he was 28 years old, had been divorced for nearly 5 years, and had been the victim and instigator of several broken relationships. He had grown up a little since then, and recently he had adopted a whole new approach to dating. No more fast girls. The whole idea of dating just to hook up had become offensive to him. He went to work for Future Lab Pharmaceuticals straight out of college. They courted him for months prior to his graduation and paid him a salary much greater than expected. They were looking for the brightest young minds to help get a new research program launched. His highest honors degree in chemical engineering from Bucknell University was exactly what they were after. The new research lab was stationed on the outskirts of Lexington, Kentucky, not far from Carter's hometown. Ansel had graduated from Bucknell at the same time and was also scooped up by Future Lab Pharmaceuticals. There were 10 other chemists, including Dylan, who recently graduated from Auburn University, so they were told. It was a whole year before Future Lab Pharmaceuticals divulged that they were owned and operated by the U.S. government. These were just some of the things sweeping through Carter's mind as he walked around his grandfather's house, wondering where in the world he had disappeared to. He called his cell phone for the 5th time in the last hour. When he hears it ringing, he twists his head toward the bedroom. The phone was still inside the drawer of the side table by his bed. Trouble, he whispered to himself. I've got some serious trouble on my hands. Harlan couldn't ever remember seeing a more radiant girl. Maybe it was because he hadn't been around many girls, or truth be told, he simply couldn't remember. The more he concentrated, meditated, and strained his mind, he still couldn't see any further into the past than 3 months. That's about the time he had shown up in this busy, heavily tourist beachfront town in South Carolina. He had an impulse to ask her out directly, but instead he just watched as she strolled by. When she suddenly stops, turns, and catches him in the act of staring, he is caught completely off guard. "Did your mama ever tell you it's rude to stare?" She said this while slightly bending one knee and cocking her hourglass hips to the side like she was sitting on them. He didn't respond quickly. "Cat gotcha tongue? Country boy." Still, he doesn't answer. She cocks her head, matching her hips, and smiles for the first time. "Hey, you worked here long?" "If it really matters, about 3 months." He said this while staring at a girlish smoothness in her face and a purity of tint running like milk down her arms. "You like giving me the eye over, don't you?" She cracks another curious smile. "Should I just call you Country, or you got a name?" "I got a name like everybody else." "Okay, you gonna tell me?" "It's Harlan, best I can remember anyway." "But..." She tilts her head back straight. "But what?" But my boss, he owns this food stand. He pauses looking over the stand. He calls me H, like the letter. Why? I think Harlan's nice. It reminds me of back home in West Virginia. My boss man. He's one of those people that thinks using single letters and acronyms makes you look smart. He's a good guy, though, I must admit. Hired me right off, and without a background check. He even gave me a place to stay. It's just a little shed that he calls a shack, but it serves the purpose. Anyways, what's your story? Are you visiting here from West Virginia? No. Well, my family. We just moved here about a week ago. Can I get a hot dog and Diet Coke? You know what? Make it a regular Coke. Harlan scoops up the hot dog, lays it in a bun, then lowers his forehead in a motion pointing beyond her. The condiments are on that table behind you, next to the jet ski rental. He reaches out the hot dog and Coke. That's $2.25 for the hot dog and $2 for the Coke. The total's $4.25. Her hand slides smoothly into the tight pocket of her cut-off shorts. I hope it's good. This is my last money. She hands him a 5. You mind if I call you Harlan? If that's really your name. That's my name. A minute ago, you weren't too sure. I've had some trouble with my memory lately, but it's all good. I'm fine. Really, I feel great. I wouldn't argue with that. I mean, you look great. She gushes a little. What I really mean is, you look like you feel great. Her face is now brimming with pink. She shoves the hot dog into one side of her mouth and starts talking out the other. So, is it always this hot around here, Harlan?
I guess. I mean, it is summer. He squints his face, pulling back from her a little. You always eat hot dogs plain? Sometimes. Careful not to choke. She jams the rest of the hot dog into her mouth. My mama always said I was a disgusting eater. I'm gonna have to agree with her on that one. Besides, I'm starving. How old are you? You mind me asking? She swallows hard. I don't mind. You gonna tell me then? 18, and you? Most people can answer the question of age immediately. But not Harlan, not now anyway, and he doesn't know why. He hesitates, looking up into the blue Carolina sky. His head slowly moves in a crisscross motion like he expects the answer to be hanging there written out for him, so he can just read it. He stares so long she too looks up hoping to see what he sees. When they drop their heads, she now sees what was there all along, uncertainty in his eyes. About the same, 18, same as you. You act as though you don't even know your own age. Like I said, I'm having some problems with my memory. Her head moves back a little. It's mysterious, like a book I once read where people who didn't know their own age were actually immortal. They had lived for so long their age no longer mattered. You don't believe everything you read in books, do you? Immortality is just an illusion dreamed up in writers' imaginations. You know that, right? Course. And I'm not so sure I'd want to be immortal anyways. It's like, well, don't you wish you could eliminate just one day from your life? I guess everybody has those moments they would like to forget, to just be able to put out of their minds. But a whole day? How could you distinguish the exact day? Which day would you consider less or more valuable than another? I was only being half serious. I didn't expect the conversation to go this deep. It's cool to think about, though. At least the part about being young and immortal. I'm not so sure. Why? Wouldn't you choose to be immortal if you could? Living forever in a world where everyone else dies? Can you imagine the enormous responsibility? I hadn't thought of that. After hundreds of years, everything you said would need to have some kind of profound influence on the world. I hadn't thought of that either. But all that aside, you do look about my age. Like I said, I am. What luck. Maybe we can hang out some? If you're good with it, so am I. What time do you get off today? I got a couple more hours to go. Then I'll see you in 2 hours. Oh, but wait. Are you a gun person or knife? What? Just answer the question. Gun, I guess. Good. That means you're not a serial killer. They never use guns, just knives or blunt objects. I could be lying. Your eyes would have flinched. Harlan sways his head at her, smiles while scooping up another hot dog and handing it to her. This one's on me. Oh God, yes. Thank you. She smashes it into her mouth. You gonna tell me your name before you go? Or should I just call you Country? It's Daniela, but I mostly go by Danny. She was talking out of one side of her mouth again while turning to leave. As Harlan watched her walk away, he thought how delightful she was to the eyes. She had a certain charm, geniality, even humor. Her looks and personality had cast a spell on him, and although now he didn't realize it, it had cast a spell on her too. It was well over 2 hours when Danny came sprinting up to the food stand. She was gasping, nearly out of breath and pouring with sweat. "What's your pleasure?" another man attending the food stand asked. Then, due to her condition, he quickly reverted. "Are you all right? Where's Harlan? Or H? Or whatever you call him?" As soon as she got the words out, she leans forward, resting her hands on her knees, breathing hard and deep. His shift ended a half hour ago. Twice her head springs back and forth, looking over her shoulder. "I know that. Einstein. Where's he gone? Or where does he live?" "It's on the beachfront, about 3, no 4 lights down if you take the road." "Wait just a second." He motions quickly with his head. There he is, talking to Edwin at the jet ski rental. When she turns, she sees Harlan waving a hand at her while still in the middle of a conversation. Running up to him, she immediately interrupts. "Can we go? I thought you had left." She looks around in a panic. "I have to go now. Can you come with me?" "Sure, just a sec." Before he can finish his thought, she snatches his hand and rushes him off. "Sorry I got hung up and was late." "Slow down. I almost fell on my face." "Where are we going anyway?" "Underneath the pier. It's safe there." "Safe?"
Yes.
She turns, looking all the way back to where they had just come from. Her face has changed from one of panic to one of concern. "What are you running from, and what have you got me running from?" "2 men." "Okay, could you please tell me why we're running from 2 men? I stole a backpack from them, and they saw me. When one of them shouted, I dropped it, but they came after me anyway. Once they reach the pier, their pace slows to a crawl. They walk underneath it, between the support pillars." "What's going on, Danny? I mean, why steal a backpack?" "I had to." "You don't really expect me to accept that answer, do you?" "Well, it's true. I need money. How else am I gonna support myself? How about like every other person walking around this beach? You're able to work, aren't you? And you do live with your parents, don't you?" "I might not have been completely upfront with you earlier. Can you be upfront with me now?" "I already told you. I've had some really bad days I would like to wipe from my life. Can we just leave it at that?" He shakes his head while carefully leading them between the pillars. "You sure do like being economical with the truth." Suddenly, he turns his head, concentrating his eyes between several creaking, dank crossbeams under the pier. "You hear that?" He cups his hand around his ear and leans his head in the direction of the beach. "Hear what?" He doesn't answer. "How can you hear anything with the waves crashing in?" "I think your 2 men have found you." She looks toward the beach but sees nothing. "What makes you say that?" "Because I just heard them talking." "What? But how?" "I don't really have an answer for that. Just tell me what you want to do." "Hide." "I think it's too late for that. Here they come." As soon as the words leave his mouth, a long, dark shadow shoots out from a series of giant, creosote-covered, support pillars. The shadows narrow, separate, then shrink and disappear as the 2 men come walking into view. Both men stand about 6 feet tall. They're overweight, around the 240 or 250-pound range, not muscular, but strong-looking. Spewing out a rough, jagged edge from his voice, one of them shouts out ahead of them. "You want to give it up now, Missy?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Danny shouts back in a firm, confident tone. She grabs Harlan's arm and looks him straight in the eyes. "I think we should make a run for it." "Are you serious?" "No. You need to face this down right here. This ends now." The 2 men continue walking straight on until they are standing directly in front of them. "You be the thieving girl that took the 1020s out of my backpack. We want them back. Now." "You're joking, right? You saw me drop it. That was after you took the $200 in green. If you know what's good for you." The man turns to Harlan. "And what's good for your pretty boyfriend, then you'll cough it up. And I mean now, Missy. You already wasted enough of our time. Any more, and somebody's gonna get hurt. So, hand over the freaking money. Now. Danny looks at Harlan again. Her faceless, confident guilt glares at him. Sweat beads up and runs down her cheeks. He forces a small smile. Look, Danny, I understand when we're desperate we do crazy things. But this situation just got serious, and I mean in a weighty, there are consequences kind of way. Your past isn't anything that you can control, but your future is. Give them the money and be done with this. She gives a quick nod, squeezes her hand into the pockets of her shorts, and pulls out a wadded-up roll of money. Before she can reach to hand it to them, the alpha man with the jagged voice snatches her by the wrist with one hand, tearing the money from her with his other. You're coming with us to the beach patrol, you thievin', good for nothing. Harlan quips back while throwing up a hand in a sort of hold on there position. What you fellas gonna do with her? It's that tough love thing, isn't it? Like you would do with a family member. You gonna make her get right. That's it, isn't it? Boy, I don't envy her. I tell you right now. Even though she's a thief, in your hands she's gonna get right. Gonna put her thievin' ways behind her and get right. He wipes at sweat running down his face. But you got your money. No harm done. Now why not just let her go? The alpha man jerks his head around to Harlan, his eyes squinting, his face wrinkled up in a fit of rage. You value your life, Sonny? You'd be like swatting a fly. Hell, even easier, like stepping on a cockroach or kicking a three-legged dog. Probably. But in the scuffle, she'd get away and you'd get those nice khaki shorts a little dirty. He allows his head to tilt down a little and starts smiling. Okay, I realize my trying to stop you would have as little permanent effect as the passing breeze. But look, nobody's day's been ruined here, mister. Could you let her go this one time? Tell you what. He slides his hand behind him, then draws it back, exposing his wallet. Here's an extra 20 for your trouble. The 20 flutters in the breeze as he stretches out his arm. What do you say? Deal? In such an intense moment, Harlan's demeanor remains calm. The two men look at each other with an uneasiness showing on their faces. Deal? Harlan repeats. It's the easy way out for everyone. How much is in the wallet? The alpha shouts. Harlan smiles again. I work at a hot dog stand. Be nice, mister. Take the 20 and let's call it a day. Empty the wallet. No, on second thought hand it over. Do the right thing. What I'm offering is fair. The alpha looks at the other man. Bobby, take his wallet. If he resists, you know what to do. Pretty boy is involved anyways. She probably was just doing his dirty work for him. It'll be more difficult than you think, Bobby. You got what? 60, maybe 70 pounds on me? But I wrestled in high school, if that means anything to you. It was in the framework of Bobby's nature to do anything his older brother told him. It had been this way his whole life, and he didn't see Harlan as a difficult task. When he makes his move forward, Harlan quickly steps back, and in the process jams his wallet back into his pants. Bobby's massive hands went for his throat, and as soon as they make contact, something violent stirs inside of Harlan. It was characterized by an unsettled activity. An involuntary impulse was set into motion. He could feel it taking control, could feel flashes of energy surging in his muscles, his blood blazing like electricity, like 10,000 unmanageable volts ripping through his veins. This powerful, quickening sensation was roused inside of him. It was not going to allow him to give out or fail. He is aware that Bobby is choking him but feels no pain or fits of suffocation. All at once there is a tingling in the tips of his fingers and the light glow of a white illumination emanating from his skin. It moves outward like a fast-rolling fog and forms a ring around Bobby and himself. In nothing flat, the white illumination is being pushed farther outward by a brighter, reddish-blue illumination, creating an outer and inner ring. The outer ring continues what is now a dull, almost muted glow of white, while the inner ring radiates dramatic varying colors, mixing blues, reds, and now greens in a constant state of flux. In what appears an automatic, involuntary motion, Harlan seizes Bobby under the armpits and lifts the large man up as if he were weightless. He raises him up so high that his head jams into the bottom of the pier. Like the shifting of a train from one track to another, The tingling sensation in Harlan's hands transfers into Bobby, causing an immediate vibrating, shaking, even burning in all of Bobby's outer extremities. It begins penetrating deep into his arms, legs, and finally progressing throughout his whole body. A forceful, out-of-control reckoning is consuming the bully, and just when it looks like the man will be consumed by the energy, Harlan tosses him into a patch of seaweed next to one of the many support pillars. For a while there is silence, the eerie kind that lingers and can overtake a situation like some quiet, invisible force. Everyone looks around at each other, but no one speaks. After a minute that seems much longer, the alpha of the two bullies shouts out, Okay. Now it's obvious you're a whole lot more to handle than I gave you credit for, sonny boy. For that I sincerely apologize. Fact is, I'm about as confused as a fart in a fan factory right now. And I don't mean this to be offensive, because you have some sort of stupid superpower and all, but in case you haven't noticed, I still have the girl. So back away from my brother. Go on. Back away. If you don't want her pretty little neck snapped, you'll do as I say. Harlan takes a half step back with one leg and puts up his fist in a defensive posture. Mister, I just gotta say, and this is meant to be offensive, you got the brains of a jellyfish. Jellyfish? The man holds one hand out in the stop position. You're choosing now to make silly jokes? Harlan raises his shoulders and tilts his head, giving a small smile. Point being, jellyfish don't have brains. But hey, don't feel bad. I wouldn't expect you to understand that. What I do expect, about now I might add, is for you to finally get a clue. So, don't make some brainless mistake and try to hurt the girl. I can do the same to you as I did to your brother. The alpha looks over to his brother, sees him holding his head between his hands and rocking on his butt in the sand. And anyway, the girl won't get hurt no matter what you try. I can promise you that. You got what you came for. So just release her before this thing goes really bad. Okay, Sonny. He lets go of Danny, and she immediately runs to Harlan, latching onto him like a child. We have decided to forgive the girl for her temporary, misguided, thieving ways. Good. Now you can go back to where you came from. The man pulls 4 fingers slowly down one side of his face, then repeats the process. For now, Sonny, for now. Once the 2 men had scurried off, another brief silence sets in. Danny releases her grip on Harlan and steps back, putting her hands over the bridge of her nose like she's praying. I never experienced anything like that before, and I've seen some twisted. She lets her hands fall. I don't mean, you are. What I mean is, it's like, you were a volcano hidden by snow. You just suddenly woke up, or, erupted. I don't know what that colorful thing coming out of you was, but it was like, not real, like I was seeing a vision, like some dreamy, half imaginary, half. Are you from another planet? Tell me the truth. I've seen things. I can take it. Harlan's eyes were somewhat surprised. I guess I can see why you would think that. But what you've just witnessed, I don't understand it any more than you. Okay, well, when did this all start? He rubs his hand across the back of his neck. The colorful thing. It's happened twice, or 3 times, since, like I said, I can't remember much lately. But since I've been working at the food stand, 3 times. God, Harlan, maybe you are from another planet. Or maybe worse. Worse? She smiles and takes him by the hand with a sort of insistent tug and begins walking him towards the beach. Maybe you're immortal after all. You'd think immortals would have better memories. Aliens too. As the 2 new friends cleared the underneath of the pier, Harlan notices his vision is unusually sharp. He can see faces some 50 yards down the beach with perfect clarity. He can even see nuances in their facial features, distinctions, like imperfections in skin tone, such as scars, darkness under eyes, moles, and freckles. He can see any uncovered tattoos, and can even make out the colors and designs. On one attractive petite girl, he makes out a dragon tattoo on her arm just below the elbow. The man attached to her shoulder has a lion in the middle of his chest, roaring and raising its legs into the air. It seems that Harlan now has the vision of a sculptor, or far better. As they continue walking, he decides to keep his discovery to himself. One arm hangs helplessly by his side, as he cups the other softly around Danny's shoulders and whispers mischievously in her ear. Maybe I was a marble statue for the past 800 years, and I've suddenly come to life. She leans her face into his arm and kisses it. No, I don't think you could have ever been made of something so hard as marble or brick and stone, for that matter. I do think you have the form for it, though, but I don't think your history goes back such a long way. No, you're 18, same as me. Anyone looking at you could see that. You're just a little confused due to the memory loss, sorta like a flower that just sprouted in the crack of a sidewalk. Suddenly, it finds itself in the middle of all the decay and change of a modern city. Who wouldn't be confused? I've heard of people losing their memory after a blow to the head or a dramatic event. Maybe you had an accident, or maybe you witnessed something horrible. Whatever happened, you can't rush it. Your memory will come back when it's good and ready.
End of Chapter 2, Earth Chronicles, Book 1. The Fifth Pinnacle by H. G. Shuler.